Good morning, students. It's our next chapter of the next topic of the chapter number 1. How far was the Constituent Assembly and the Indian Constitution effective? अगर हम इसकी इफ़ेक्टिवनेस को देखें तो इसकी इम्पोर्टेंस जो है वो आज भी एज ए लिविंग डॉक्यूमेंट बनी हुई है. ठीक है, क्यों? क्योंकि इसमें अमेंडमेंट का प्रोविज़न है और ये सबको इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ जो है वो देता है. इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ के साथ में जितने भी रूल्स रेगुलेशंस और लॉ है उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन भी ये इक्वली देता है. ठीक है ना. द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वॉज ड्रॉन फ्रॉम अ नंबर ऑफ सोर्सेज माइंडफुल ऑफ इंडियंस नीड एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस. Its framers borrowed features of previous legislation such as the Government of India Act 1858, the Indian Council Act of 1861, 1892 and 1909, the Government of India Acts of 1919 and 1935, and the Indian Independence Act of 1947, the latter which led to the creation of India and Pakistan. The latter which led to the creation of India and Pakistan divided the former Constituent Assembly into टू पार्ट्स. इस चीज़ ने टू पार्ट्स में उसे डिवाइड कर दिया था. ईच न्यू असेंबली हैड सोवर्जन पावर टू ड्राफ्ट एंड enact a new constitution for the separate states. Now, the principle of deliberation. The legitimacy of the Constituent Assembly stems from the fact that it was perfectly, if not broadly, representative. Further, this legitimacy stems from the procedure adopted to frame the Constitution and the values its members brought to its deliberations. In any Constituent Assembly, diverse society or the section of society should be represented. Similarly, it is imperative that these sections should not only confine themselves to their community interest. While drafting the Indian Constitution, the framers had difference of opinion on issues relating to centralization or decentralization of powers, relations between the center and the state, power of judiciary and right to property as a fundamental right. Almost every issue shows hectic deliberations, discussions, and debates. Only one provision, right to vote without any discrimination on ground of caste, color, religion, gender, or income, was passed without any discrimination. The Constitution is lent credibly from the fact that the members of Constituent Assembly engaged in various seasons, arguments, and debates. The 12 volumes debate in the Constituent Assembly, where each provision was subject to debate and discussion, gives various legitimacy to the draft of the Indian Constitution. The framers always allows deliberation on important national issues, setting aside narrow sectional considerations. It is a tribute to the framers that these debates are memorious, giving Indian Constitution a significant place next to French and American Constitution. Now, what was the procedure adopted by the Assembly? The significance of the public reasonings was attached to even the procedures of the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly had 8 major committees on different subjects, with Nehru, Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel, Dr. Ambedkar, and Maulana Azad being the head of these committees. It is well known that these eminent men had differences of opinion. Ambedkar was a strong critic of Nehru and Gandhiji for their stand on scheduled caste. Likewise, Patel and Nehru disagreed on many issues. Nevertheless, all these eminent personalities worked together only for the welfare of our nation. Each committee drafted certain proposals which were then debated by the entire assembly. Discussions were usually based on consensus vote. and each argument was responded in writing. Nearly more than 7,000 arguments, or we can say the amendments, were there. The assembly meet for over 2 years, 11 months and 18 days, and its sessions were open to press and public alike. Inheritance of the nationalist struggle. The constitution was a country is not merely a product of the assembly which precedes it. An assembly as diverse as that of India could never have functions unless there were certain principles on which the framers had concern. These principles were the cherished inheritance of India's long struggle for independence. For decades before independence, the nationalist struggles had debated the problems of types of government India should have, the value to be enriched in the constitution, and the methods of overcoming inequalities. The best summary of the principle as a heritage by our national movement was done in the objective resolution moved by Nehru in 1946. This resolution fulfilled the aspiration and the values of the constitution. The substantive provision of the constitution were mentioned in these objective resolutions, like the various committees of equality, liberty, democracy, sovereignty, and a single identity. Thus, the Indian constitution is not only a set of rules and regulations, but even an ethical commitment to fulfill the aspirations of the people promised by the nationalist movement. Another factor is the institutional arrangements. It ensuring the effectiveness of the constitution. It is the balanced proportion of the several institutions of the government. The basic principle is that India is a democracy committed to establishment of a welfare state. The Constituent Assembly debated quite long to strike the right balance between the various institutions like legislature, executive, and judiciary. It led to the adoption of parliamentary system of government. Likewise, federalism was adopted with distribution of powers between legislative, executive, and judiciary. On the other hand, and experiments and experiences of the countries, the framers of the constitution borrowed a number of constitutions and used it to suit Indian aspirations and values. In this regard, India was lucky that the member of the Constituent Assembly, instead of being narrow minded in their outlook, drew a best available where everywhere in the world and made it their own.